done the coursework for that, the prep for that, and then they decide, hey, I actually want my high school diploma, and we'll give them credit for some of
Because
the.
I know what was doing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
When a student's ready to take the real test and they've been in practice, who do we contact?
For which one?
For a GED, or either.
So we have a assessment coordinator. Her contact information is at the end of the slide.
Okay.
So you can reach out to her. We also have a regional person that is responsible for administering and organizing GED testing times and dates, and his name is Mario Solano.
Yeah.
So he's also someone that you can reach out to if you have someone who's ready.
How long does it normally take to go through the course for a GED or for the high school level?
It depends on the student, right? Because we're talking about what's their literacy level. You know, what credits are they coming in with? What have they done prior to coming to 5Ps? So it varies by student. Yeah.
Like, it's very typical to see students who have a lot of extra elective credits. And like a lot of students will take like at their previous school they took basic math over and over and over again, and it was always elective, and so they might have a ton of like they might have more than they could ever use, and they might actually have more than the number of credits they need to graduate at 5Qs, but they still need the specific credits in the content areas.
So with the GED, students passing the new GED will receive 50 high school units for a complete GED. So someone might come in and say, hey, I already have my GED, but I want to continue to go to school so I can get my high school diploma. This is kind of a selling point for them because some of those credits can roll over and then they don't have to start from scratch. Students passing individual subtests will earn 10 units per subtest. A passing score of 145 or higher is needed for each subtest. And then this is just kind of a breakdown of how those credits will be allocated to their transcript. So for the English language tests for the GED, they can get 20 units. For math, they'll get 10 units total. 5 will go towards algebra requirements, and 5 will go towards general math. And actually, I think that should be geometry now. I'll double check it. Yeah. So yeah, it's 5 algebra, 5 general, 5 geometry or advanced math. So I'll change that. Sorry. Science is 10 units. 5 will go towards bio, and 5 to physical science. Social studies is 10 units, and 4 will go towards government, 2 to econ, 1 to world history, and 3 for U.S. history. So we basically look at what the content of the test, you know, like how the test is broken down, and then we kind of say, okay, a certain percentage of it is government questions. So then that's how we figured out, like, out of the 10, we're going to allocate, 3 points to 4 points to government, 2 to econ, and 1 to world history, and so on. So it's just based on those percentages.
The passing score is 145. What's the highest score? Like, what's the highest it could be?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'll have to look.
Sure.
High set. A student will receive 50 high school units for a complete high set. So the breakdown is very similar. So like if they come in with a high set as a high school equivalency, we can also use that towards their high school diploma if they want to pursue high school diploma afterwards.
It's 200 the highest score.
Is it? Okay.
200.
200. Oh, thank you, Shirley. Yeah, it's 200. Yeah. The credit allocation for the subtest is based on the official published content of the test. So you get 10 units of English language arts, you can get 10 units of English composition, 10 units of science, 5 which will be allocated to biology, 5 physical, 10 units of math, which will be broken down to 5 algebra and 5 advanced math. 10 units will go towards social studies, broken down the following: 2 econ, 4 government, 3 U.S. history, and 1 world history.
I have a question. You may have covered it already. They're taking both a GED or equivalency that's only going toward their program, because normally when you take that, you'll finish the program. You'll have like GED or you'll have a high school equivalency diploma. But the program is designed for only a portion of those tests to go towards the full program. Cause if you wanna go
No,
to
it's
high school
both.
diploma. Okay.
Yeah, so sometimes we have students that they just wanna do GED and that's it.
And that's okay.
That's okay,
Okay.
yeah, and, you know,
This is just if they wanna go through the track. of it.
yeah,
Okay.
cause maybe their job, they realize that they had job opportunities, that
Right.
if they have a high school diploma, there's
It's
more
different.
available
Okay,
to
all
them.
right, thank you.
That was my question.
Okay.
Is there more available with high school diploma?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, can you not apply to college if you only have a GED? Or can you apply to community college?
you can go to college, yeah, different schools have different criteria.
Community college. But it's no different with 5 keys. We have state minimum requirements so that you would be rare that you would be able to go from a 5 keys directly to a state college system. It would also be to a community college system.
Okay, so here's the pathway to the high school equivalency test. So with any student that is being enrolled for the first time, they're gonna be tape tested at intake, and they will receive instruction on one of the 3 tracks of education based on their grade level equivalence. So, they would be put on a literacy track if they have a pre-test, if they were pre-tested and they had a 5.0 grade level equivalency or lower. Same thing with math. If they have a 5.0 or lower, then they would do numeracy. For those who have a 5.1 through 7.0 grade point equivalency, then they would be on an adult basic education track. And that's just kind of that mid-level where we still want to build skills and they're not quite there for high school yet. And then we've got the GED, high set, and high school diploma. All 3 of those are kind of the same, you know, we recognize that as the same level of access. So if they have a 7.1 grade point equivalency or all the way through a 12.0, then they would be on that track. Note that students may be on different tracks in math than other subjects. So like they could have a high level in reading and they can have access to most of the high school curriculum, but they might be doing basic math until they're able to tape at a high enough level in math to access algebra or geometry or some of those higher levels of math. High set students must pass the 2015 practice test with a well-prepared status.
What's that mean?
So in order for us to recommend them for, so they can have access to the high set materials at a 7.1, you know, if they're in within that range for tape, but they actually, we won't give them a voucher to take the high set until they've actually passed the practice test. So it's not just, we look at the tape and say, oh, go ahead and take the high set. We actually need you to pass the practice test at a certain level before we're gonna give you the voucher.
Who would pay for the high set?
Yeah.
What's the difference between a GED and a high set test? They're both high school, they're both equivalency tests, right? But is it just, is that a silly question? Is there a difference between them?
Well, with the
Is it
state of
GED or high school?
California, the state of California recognizes both as high school equivalencies. However, it's when you get to like employers and certain schools, they may not recognize the high set. I would say that of the 2, the high set tends to have less status than the GED. And then the high set allows for certain things, like it's a little bit more flexible than.
Yeah, if I could jump in. I mean, so nationally there's actually, I think, to my knowledge, at least 3, possibly more high school equivalencies now that are on the market. The TASC, HiSET, and GED. Each one of these is owned by a different publishing company, so it's really just a marketplace. And if you own the test, then you own the marketplace of test prep, right? And so when other states had a contract with the GED as like the sole, equivalency that started to run out, and then other publishing companies wanted to get into the game. It's a pretty, it's a profitable game to get into, and so states, different states accepted different tests, but I think what we need to do as well as educators is to start to educate the public and stop referring to it as a GED and start referring to it as a high school equivalency, because when they get the certificate, it comes from the state of California, from the Department of Education. Nowhere on it does it say GED, you know, and so I think it's really about the messaging more than anything else, to America's point, that some employers may not know what to do with it. Our students need to say it's high school equivalency, or, you know, you don't need to call it HiSET.
And the GED has been revised according to Common Core standards, is that
Yeah.
like revised? So how about the HiSET ones? They're all.
They're all
trainings.
supposed to be aligned with Common Core. One of the material differences between GED and HiSET is GED at this point is only offered as an online assessment, whereas HiSET has a paper option, which is, for some of our students, that may be the preferable, you know, alternative. In San Francisco, City College now is really preparing people for the HiSET more than the GED. The HiSET also has a reputation for being slightly easier than the GED. But you know, these versions are both fairly new, and so there hasn't been enough study yet done to determine whether or not they actually are harder. You know, which one is harder, how to best prepare people. So the jury is still out.
Will they go into the jails to get the HiSET for that?
You have to be an authorized
Yeah.
administrator of the exam in order to, so some jails do offer the HiSET because they've been authorized by the state to be proctors for the exam or administrators of the exam. We can actually, I mean, I think we have authorization to provide the GED in custody, but it's an online test, and the online issue is the part that is the challenge for us. But yeah, there's a lot of students that will come from other jails and they'll say, hey, you know, I took the GED in jail, and you're like, are you sure it's the GED? And then you find out it's the HiSET because it's a paper test, you know. But yeah, that's one of the selling points for people, is that it's that paper test. So like when we're thinking about, you know, who our students are, sometimes if it's I don't mean to be stereotypical, but if it's an older student who may not have familiarity with digital literacy, they may opt for that, but then some might actually want the challenge of learning the computers and becoming proficient in that. So you almost have to kind of have the conversation with your student to see what they're comfortable with and what they're willing to take on in terms of extra learning, because it's going to be a learning curve to learn the computer if you don't have any access to the computer or familiarity with it.
Also though, like, it's harder to use like testing strategies when it's on the computer versus on paper. The underlining, marking out, writing out why this answer won't work. So I think having it on paper might be really beneficial to students if they've been taught those testing and learning strategies.
Sure.
So GED doesn't offer it on paper at all.
Well, which test does 5 Keys prefer? It sounds like possibly the GED. And how do I know like which test to get? Like if they want to take a high school equivalency exam, how do I know which one to push? Mine is like I know you mentioned the 8. You know, maybe if the student has a preference.
Sure. I also would see what their long-term goal is. You know, that might be a factor in deciding which one to give. Again, certain employers may accept the HiSET, some may not. So then if they know exactly where they want to go, if they're trying to get into a certain type of workforce program, like knowing what that requires might be one way of sorting out which one would be the best option. I would say that, you know, if our assessment coordinator was here, she would say we really aren't pushing the HiSET track that much because, again, it's outsourced. It's not even something that we're offering internally. We have to give someone a voucher to take it somewhere else. Whereas the GED, we actually have the capabilities, we have computers, we have a testing schedule and all that stuff, so.
And with the GED, we get the results right away. Sherwin is one of our testing coordinator people. We know right away. With the HiSET, it's a couple of weeks. So definitely in San Francisco, it's different in Los Angeles, but in San Francisco, the GED is the more preferred route. We've only had a few people that went the HiSET route.
Yeah.
We don't discourage it if that's where they come to us wanting, but if they're asking us, we're going to say GED because we can facilitate it internally easily.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
So if they say that they prefer to get the high school, the high school diploma, and they have the.
That's the normal route, almost like that's everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's also a Spanish version of the GED that we help people prep for, which a few of our students who are English language learners, and don't feel comfortable preparing for the GED in English can take it in Spanish.
Is there a Spanish essay?
Not to my knowledge.
And then there's the campus in Spanish.
No, yeah. There's only GED test prep materials in Spanish. I think we were only able to find one publisher, Score Boost, has the GED in Spanish. Like they have like the math and the science and the, and those are the little
So if language
books.
is a problem, then every GED would be better than diploma, because everything all the packets in English,
Well, I would be, I would say it's a little more nuanced than that because the Spanish GED is still testing you at high school level material. So if you are a Spanish speaker, but you were not formally educated, then that's gonna actually be a hindrance for you. So like if they have high level of educational experience where they're from and they speak Spanish, then yeah, that would make sense, but. Okay, so age requirements. So in terms of being able to test for the GED or the HiSET, you must be 18 years of age or older or within 60 days of your 18th birthday. If you're within 60 days of when you would have graduated from high school, had you remained in school and followed the usual course of study, candidates testing under these criteria may not be enrolled in school. If you are 17 years of age, have been out of school for at least 60 consecutive days, and provide a letter of request for the test from the military, a post-secondary educational institution, or a prospective employer. Important note, if you pass the GED test or HiSET at age 17, you will not receive the equivalency certificate until your 18th birthday. A letter of intent is issued and states that the certificate is being held pending the examinee's 18th birthday. So there are some age restrictions there. Online referrals. There's a link there, so you'll be able to, if you, as a student meets all the criteria, like their TABE is at the right level, all those things, then you can fill out a GED online referral form. The link is there. If you have someone that you think might be a candidate for HiSET, please send an email to your supervisor and CC Mario Solano, and he will be able to see if that person's actually appropriate. Test out options. Okay, so the 5 Keys does provide some test out options for students to, earn credits in areas that they already have proficiency in. And so the intent is for students who have not earned high school credits in specific subject areas, but nonetheless have the equivalent knowledge and skills from non-school activities. So someone who worked as a nurse and in another country but has no high school biology credits in the US is a good example of that. Someone who speaks a different language, and they're a native speaker. So the criteria is the test out does not duplicate units already earned. Subsequent classes will not duplicate the skills demonstrated on the test out. An improved exam is used to demonstrate the skill. It is in the student's best interest to test out and is part of the map to graduation. And written approval to test out is uploaded to OASIS.
Is there a technology test out?
We're working on it. Yeah, like we're working on a typing one where you can get some of your technology credits, not all of them, but some. Okay, so test out options. You can get test out partial credits for passing some of the sections of the GED. So like they gave science as an example there. The HiSET, same thing, partial credits if they pass certain sections of the test. We have what is called a TABE complete battery, so it's a lot different than the TABE that we give, for placement. This one is a full exam that is very formal, and students can receive 5 credits test out in English or math, advanced English or advanced math. Please contact your supervisor for that process. We have a foreign language test, so students with high proficiency in a language other than English will be permitted to earn credits towards their foreign language and or elective credits. Up to 20 language credits may be earned, and please contact your supervisor for that process as well. If you have someone who you know is a native speaker or speaks another language. So here's a link to some of the important pages on the intranet. So tomorrow, and maybe a little bit today, I'm not sure. Yeah. So we'll show you the intranet. It's part of your website. Your email account. You'll have access to this link for teachers where you can have access to ISP curriculum, which is organized by TABE grade level. There's an assessment and testing page where it has all the documentation of how to do test outs, how to qualify someone for GED and that kind of thing. GED info page and HiSET info page. So there's that link where you will be able to access it through your 5 Keys email. You'll have access to the entry. If you have any questions or related to assessments, we have that assessment coordinator and her contact information is there. If you have questions regarding TAFE specifically, we have a group email that you can send send all your inquiries there. If you have GED questions, you can contact Mario, who is one of our principals, and he can give you information about GED.
What's that?
GED?
There's actually a GED email, GED@5keyscharter.org, or all the GED things, catch all of us, right?
Sounds good. GED@5keyscharter.org. So it's basically like the TAFE one, but just do GED.
I had a student who only spoke fluent, they have to read, write, and speak it, or
They can get partial credit. Yeah. All right, so that's it. We'll go more into detail about the TAFE tomorrow.